5 words for you. Radical, feminist, lesbian, werewolf hunters. That's right, I'll say it again. Radical, feminist, lesbian, werewolf hunters. I have a little secret for you. I really like werewolf stories.
Not vampires, not unicorns. Nope. Werewolves are my favourite supernatural creature.
And I have, on occasion, been known to peruse werewolf media sources. TV, movies, books. Finding good werewolf books is pretty difficult. It's mostly either badly written or badly written smut. There really is a crap metric ton of paranormal erotica on Kindle. So when I saw the words radical feminist, lesbian, werewolf hunters, I was there immediately. And I discovered that not only is this a fun, funny, entertaining romp through werewolf literature, but it's also quite a good beginner's guide to feminism. I know, a book about radical feminist, lesbian, werewolf hunters is a good introduction to feminism. I'm really not going to get tired of saying that, am I? Radical feminist, lesbian, werewolf hunters. But it's also quite a good explanation of a young girl discovering her sexuality for the first time. Let's discuss this while I make some of my maple syrup, bacon and apple breakfast muffins. Shall we? Background. Lunatic Fringe is the debut novel by self-published author Allison. She is a Lambda Fellow for LGBTQ literature, teaches sex education, and is very active in something I discovered on YouTube, bawdy storytelling.
I got to watch and listen to hot fucking ladies, fucking ladies.
Which is amazing, you should definitely check it out. She's also recently done a project on 90 days of self-publishing, so you can see how the whole process works. Frankly, she's just a pretty awesome woman. Go to talesofthepack.com to find out more. Summary. Lexi is a new student at the Milton College of Liberal Arts, a kind of fictional Portland, and she doesn't have any strongly held opinions and has never really come across any feminist ideas. That is until she meets the pack. Lexi is invited to hang out with a group of women who are all feminists and self-define as lesbians who live communally in a house they call the Den. Even though they claim to be a non-hierarchical collective, there is an obvious top dog called Blythe. Lexi disagrees with a lot of the language, finding it too extreme. Intermixed with the discovery of sexuality and romps through the fantastical world of werewolves is a dialectic web of feminist thought with our protagonist at the centre, trying to figure out where she stands in all of this. Also, it's just really funny. Take this line, for example. Are you a lesbian, Renee? No, that's just a vicious rumour spread by all the women I've slept with. I really like this book. Where does the werewolf hunting come into this? Well, that would be telling, wouldn't it?
So, how does the book explore these feminist themes? First off, our protagonist Lexi is like raw clay, waiting to be moulded. An apt description for most college students. Up till that age, most people either haven't formed their views yet, or have made up their minds in a binary black and white.
She's never really heard any feminist ideas, which, again, I think reflects on how most people actually go to college. Some people may be luckier, but certainly for me, I may have learned about suffragettes once or twice in school and read Jane Eyre, but I never really had a feminist education. My mum taught me to respect myself and always be careful, but nobody ever handed me a copy of The Second Sex or The Female Eunuch. I never contextualised my experiences into a wider movement. And I think that's probably true of a lot of people. Lexi is shocked and unnerved by some of the new ideas she's hearing. And she also feels embarrassed because she's never heard of some of these things. I remember that feeling back in the day.
Oh, Prompt kings and queens are part of the socially coercive paradigm of binary sexuality and heteronormativity, ultimately created and reproduced by the patriarchal male hegemony used to ensure the socio-political hierarchy. Don't you agree?
So if you are a young reader, then Lexi is a good audience avatar. And if you are older, then it's probably a good reminder of how you felt when you were first diving into feminism. Most of the discussion of feminism comes from interactions with the pack. But before that, the author gives us an even more basic introduction through a women's studies class. The professor gives this speech to her students.
What is equality? Is it equal opportunity, equal pay, equal social standing? How do we know when we achieve it? How do we know we haven't yet achieved it? What are the hindrances any individual or community encounters in pursuit of equality? How do we recognise them, and how do we defeat them? Is it even possible or advantageous to society for everyone to achieve equality?
This raises a crucial point about feminism. We don't have all the answers. Frankly, I'm not even sure we have any of the answers yet. We can all agree that feminism strives for equality between the sexes, but we haven't even reached a conclusion about what equality is. Blythe, the de facto leader, has the strongest, most radical views. She spells women with a Y. She calls all fathers tyrants. On labels of sexuality, Blythe has this to say. Female sexuality is so terrifying to men that they need to designate those women they can sleep with and those that they can't. When one pack member, Mitch, says that they don't mind being referred to as he, Blythe shouts this down, saying, "There is no place for the male pronoun in the pack." Pronouns. That is a contentious feminist issue, and one that comes up more in the sequel. But you know what the most interesting feminist discussion is? Feminist lesbian separatism. Feminist lesbians living communally couldn't help but remind me of the short-lived political movement of lesbian separatism. Mostly in 1970s America, with some offshoots in Europe and Canada. The movement was based on the idea that the structures of society, its finance, its social hierarchies, were so imbued with the masculine, designed and used to keep women down, that women would never achieve equality in that society, so they should go and form their own. There should be no interactions with men, no working with men, no socialising with men, and definitely no sleeping with them. As the activist T. Gray Atkinson said, if feminism is the theory, lesbianism is the practice. Why? Because any woman who is still in a heterosexual relationship was allowing herself to be dependent on a man, which would harm the movement. Firstly, by denying the self-sufficiency of women. Secondly, as one of the most famous communes, the Furies, said, so long as women benefit from heterosexuality, receive its privileges and security, they will at some point have to betray their sisters, especially those lesbian sisters who do not receive those benefits. There were many other reasons for the movement. For example, lesbian feminists often felt shut out of mainstream feminist organisations like NOW, when the president, Betty Friedan, called them the Lavender Menace. The character Blythe doesn't take it that far, but she still turns sexuality into politics.
Women giving pleasure to one another is the most subversive and beautiful thing we can do together. No one can please a woman like another woman, and women feeling joy, pleasure and love without male aggression, oppression, or their ridiculous organs is downright revolutionary. Important to note, there were strong objections to lesbian separatism, notably amongst certain black feminists who felt that, since women of colour faced certain struggles on top of those of sexism, cutting themselves off from men who had had similar experiences of racial prejudice would take away a huge base for activism.
I would love to go on about this beautiful short-lived phenomenon, but we don't really have time. So I urge you to go and look it up for yourselves because it is truly fascinating. I find it interesting how the author highlights this old-school political thinking in a modern feminist novel.
As to be expected, Lexi finds all of this overwhelming and disagrees with a lot of it.
At one point, she remarks that the women of the pack just sit around complaining about how much men suck, and that she doesn't feel any anger towards men, until one member of the pack comes up with this little gem.
Just because you haven't had negative experiences with men yourself doesn't mean that those experiences aren't real for other women. Solidarity begs you to treat those issues as your own, because what is it but luck and a little bit of social progress that has kept you safe all these years?
Yes! 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 Thank you, God, Sophia, mother of all creation! Thank you for succinctly explaining what I've been trying to tell people for years. This just perfectly sums up everything I've needed to say. This book makes me so happy. The other thing I enjoy about this book is its description of Lexi finding her sexuality. Spoiler alert, she's attracted to women. But it's not just about that. There's a larger story. Yes, she has angst and some doubt, but that's mostly because she's never been attracted to anyone before.
The book talks about sexuality and femininity, and these are important themes, but it always comes across as quite matter-of-fact, not a big deal, which is kind of nice. There's not all that much LGBT literature out there, and literature targeted at young adults, even less. To have books for LGBT teens and 20-year-olds, or just about LGBT teens and 20-year-olds, that doesn't make a huge deal of their sexuality, that's pretty unusual. There are some fairly steamy sex scenes too, which had me reaching for a fan, but they never seem out of place or pornographic, just accurate description. Allison Moon is a woman who knows how to write about sex. She kind of has experience with it.
And we proceed to have the queerest sex I'd ever had in my life for like a week.
Which is pretty cool. Because sex is a normal part of most relationships.
And I don't think it's fair for characters to only be gay in theory.
Also, it has werewolves in it. So please go and read it. Lunatic, Fringe by Allison Moon. I cannot recommend it enough. Please go check it out. The sequel, Hungry Ghost, is out as well. And go to Tales of the Pack to find out more. Thank you for watching. Keep the flames in the oven and out of the comments section. Until next time, toodaloo.
Coercive social paradigm, coercive social paradigm, coercive social paradigm.
Of binary sexuality
And heteronormativity.
Part of the
Socially coercive paradigm.
the coercive social paradigm
Coercive social paradigm.
of heteronormativity and binary sexuality.
Ultimately created and reproduced by the
Patriarchal
patriarchal male hegemony.
Excellent. Why if we do that twice more?
That's fine. Okay.
And twice as fast!
Kings and queens are part of the social blah 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 blah.
I'm sorry.
Do you agree?
I do. Cheers. To the matriarchy.
Woo! I'm in the matriarchy chair.
Yeah,
All is
you are.
good.
Oh, I'm in the patriarchy chair.
Oh
Shit.
God. But it's comfortable with patriarchy chair.
It is. All this privilege. Mm,
Well,
so cozy.
fuck you.
Do 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 do. Hegemony. Do 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 do. Hegemony. Do do do